Okay, the final sample is the waistband. This is the exact directions that you're going to be using when you make your pajama pants. So we're first going to practice on a sample, an 8x5 sample, first before you go ahead and do this on your pajama pants. But this is the same exact way to do it. So the first direction says to cut out a rectangle 8x5. I have done so already, so go ahead and cross it off. Then it says baste 1.5 inches from one long end. So line up the edge of the fabric with the end of the metal stitch plate. So I am going to line up this edge with actually the very first screw hole. That is about 1.5 inches from the presser foot. So I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to line it up there. So as you see here, I've lined up the edge of my fabric with the screw hole. That's about 1.5 inches from the presser foot. If you take a seam gauge out of your backs and you measure from the center line right here out, 1.5 inches is about right at that screw hole. I'm going to baste from one end to the other, making sure that I follow that edge of the screw. And if you notice, I did not backstitch whatsoever. Make sure my take-up lever is up and go ahead and pull out and cut your fabric. The next direction, so I'm going to go ahead and cross off that I basted 1.5 inch. The next direction says then baste 1/4 inch from the top. So I already have my baseline right here. I'm going to then baste 1/4 inch from this edge. So I'm going to line up my fabric with the edge of the presser foot, and that will be my 1/4 inch edge. Okay, I'm still basting, so my base still needs stitchings to be at 5. And I'm now lined up with the 1/4 inch mark, and I can now go following the edge of the presser foot. Please notice I am not back stitching. Make sure your take-up lever is in the up position, and then you can go ahead and release from behind. Okay, I just basted the 1/4 inch mark, so I'm going to go ahead and cross that off. It then says to then turn on the 1/4 inch baseline and press. So what that looks like is, I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to fold on that 1/4 inch baseline, which will be in the crease, and then I'm going to go press that down with my iron. So it should look like that when I come back. Okay, I just went and pressed the 1/4 inch baseline. The next direction, if you go ahead and cross off that I did that. And then its next direction says sew in between that small area. So I am going to line up that small area with my center mark, and I'm going to sew in between that small area. I'm also going to make sure that I turn my machine off of baste and make sure I'm not on zigzag, so make sure my stitch width is at 0, and then I will sew in between that small area. Okay, so I'm ready to sew. I am going to back stitch because it did not ask me to baste. And I am just sewing in between that small area, making sure my center line is in the center. And then I'm going to backstitch. Make sure my take-up lever is in the up position, and then I can release it. Okay, I just sewed in between that small area, so I'm going to go ahead and cross off that I did that. The next direction is asking to then fold on the 1.5 inch baseline and press. So I've already folded on this one. I am now going to fold on the 1.5" baseline. And I'm going to make sure that the stitching line is in the crease. I then am going to go press it, and when I come back, I can cross off that direction. Okay, I'm all set to go ahead and stitch the casing as close as I can to this edge. I'm lining up my center line close to that edge, but not exactly on the edge, so I go over. Since I am stitching, I do need to back stitch. When I get to the end, I do need to back stitch again. Make sure my take-up lever is in the up position. Go ahead and grab it and cut it. And now my casing is complete. From this side, you should only have one stitching line, and then you should be able to put your finger inside of that casing. And again, that is where your elastic will go. Once you press this, cut all your threads, you're then going to go ahead and staple it to the last page. Congratulations, you're done with your samples.